Hi everyone. In today's lesson we will be studying financial math in the IB. This is a topic in the IB Math AI standard level and high level. First, we will understand each one of these components in the finance solver one by one in a detailed way, comprehensively, and after that we will go through a detailed example step by step showing the solutions and the steps, and also showing them on this GDC step by step to understand the topic better and apply the concept very well. So first, let's start with the TVM solver, which is time value for money, or it's the finance solver. It's in your GDC, TI-84, TI-Inspire or Casio. It will be the same process in all GDCs, but I will use the TI-Inspire. It helps you calculate loans, savings, investment, annuities, as we will see in some examples. So first, let's start with these components. First, we have N, which is the number of the periods. Now keep in mind, N is the total number of the periods during the whole question or payments. Not necessarily the number of years, could be months, could be quarters, it depends on the question. So it will be the total number of compounding periods. Let's say, for example, you are paying monthly for 5 years, which means 12 times a year. In 5 years, you have 5 multiplied by 12, which will be 60, then N will be 60 in this case. We have 60 payments. Now, so keep in mind then, N is not always the number of years. Next, we have the PPY, or the payments per year. As you see, it's the number of payments you make in 1 year. So if you're paying monthly, then 12 times a year, PY will be 12. If it's quarterly or every 3 months, then it will be 4. If it's yearly, then PY will be 1. Now keep in mind that PY and N are strongly related to each other. If PPY is done monthly, like 12 times a year, then N will be the total number of months. If PY represents quarterly, then N will be the total number of quarters in that case. And here we have the relation that connects them both. N will be the total number of years multiplied by the PY. So here, as you see in this example, N will be 5 multiplied by 12, which is 60, which is this formula again. Next we have I, which is very easy. It's the annual interest rate. Now we enter I in the calculator as percentage, as it is, not as decimal. So let's say, for example, it is 6%. We enter 6, not 0.06 as decimal. This is the annual rate. Even if the payments is monthly, you will enter I as yearly. Then we have PV, or the present value. It's the amount at the beginning, it's the initial value. For loans, for example, when you take out a loan from a bank, let's say, it's the amount you borrowed from the bank initially. Usually, to avoid confusion with positives and negatives, as we'll explain later, the amount you borrow from the bank will be positive because you are taking the money, you are gaining the money, you're receiving the money. But if you are making an investment, so you will deposit or invest initially, that's why you are spending the money, which means the amount you will write in the calculator will be negative, as we will see later in the example, because you are spending the money. So keep it like this. To avoid confusion about positive or negative, imagine that you have a bank account. You know very well, whenever you receive any payment, it will show plus, positive. Let's say you receive 100, it shows plus 100. But when you spend, let's say 500, it shows minus 500 or negative 500. So whenever you spend or the money goes away from you, in that case, you put negative. So here, as you see, if you're taking a loan of 10,000, then it will be 10,000. But if you are depositing, it will be negative. Next, we have the future value, FV. It's the value at the end of the timeline you want. So for example, if you're solving questions about loans and the loan should be fully repaid or paid off, the final value is 0. So you have nothing left to repay. You paid off. But if you're making investment, let's say you deposit 1,000, you will see how many years it will need to become 2,000. In that case, the future value will be 2,000. Or if you're waiting it to be 5,000 in 3 years, then the future value will be 5,000. Next, we have the PMT, which is the payment each period, or let's say the regular or the recurring payment. Here, it's used in loans or annuities. You know that when you repay the loan, you make recurring monthly payments. Even when you make annuities or whatever, also you make recurring payments. Let's say the recurring payment is $200. In that case, the PMT will be 200. Again, it could be positive or negative, it depends. The same way, if you are spending the money, it will be negative. If you are gaining the money, it will be positive. Now, not all questions have PMTs or regular payments. So if you don't have any regular payment over time, like let's say it's only one-time payment or investment, then the PMT will be 0. Next, we have the CPY, the compounding periods per year. It's very simple and very easy. It's about how many times you compound, or the interest is compounded per year. If it's compounded monthly, then CPY will be 12. Compounded yearly, then CPY will be 1. Let's say quarterly, it will be 4. Now keep in mind that CPY and PPY are not related. So you could have compounded quarterly when CPY is 4, but the payments are done monthly, so the PPY will be 12. Finally, the calculator will ask you about the regular payments. Are they done at the end or in the beginning of the period? The end or the beginning of the month or the year and so on. Now, in the IB, most of the times we use end payments, where payments are done at the end of each period. This is the very most common. So now we will solve this good example to understand and apply everything we've learned. First, you can understand the example. Here we have Alex wants to buy a motorcycle for $30,000 in the form of a loan from a bank, and it's for 5 years. The rate is 7% compounded quarterly. Alex will make monthly repayment to pay off the loan. Each payment will be done at the end of each month. We need to calculate the monthly repayment, or the amount of each of those monthly repayments. First, before we enter the numbers in the calculator, we will write down the information we have. Here, as we see, n will be 12 multiplied by 5. Because there's 12 repayments every year. For 5 years, then overall there's 60 repayments. So in the full period, 60 repayments will be done. Since 12 payments per year, then the PPY will be 12, compounded quarterly. So CPY will be 4 times a year. The rate I will be 7. The present value is positive $30,000. Because he's receiving the money, he's gaining the money, so that's why the value will be positive, as we explained. The future value will be 0 because at the end of the 5 years, when the loan is fully repaid, there's nothing left to be repaid. That's why the future value will be 0. The PMT is what we are looking for, which is the value of each of those monthly recurring payments. I've calculated this in the calculator and I got this answer. And now I will show you how to get it in the calculator. So first, we will enter n as 60. I here, as you see, 7. The present value is $30,000. The PMT is what we don't know, so I will keep it empty. Then the future value, as we said, 0. The PPY is 12, and here we have 4. And we will keep the payment end as we said. And also here it's written at the end of each month. So now we will see the PMT. As you see, the same answer written here, but here it's rounded to 2 decimal places. Now it's very logical that we got the PMT as a negative number. Why? because every month he's paying this amount. He's paying, which means the amount, or he's spending the money. So that's why the amount will be negative. So this is the answer. Now for question B, we need to calculate the amount that he will still owe the bank at the end of the second year. Now as you see here, the loan will be paid completely after 5 years. So after 2 years, the loan will not be paid fully, it will be paid partially. There will be still something to be paid after the 2 years. But now let's calculate what the loan will be after 2 years here. So after 2 years, he would pay a part of that loan. Here, what will happen is this. N will be 12 multiplied by 2 this time, because we have only 2 years. The PY same, CPY 4, and the I is 7. Present value the same. Here, now we know from question A that he's paying this amount monthly each time, the recurring payment. But we need to know the future value. We need to know the amount that needs to be still needs to be paid after 2 years. Here it will not be 0, because after 2 years there will be still amounts to be repaid. I did it in the calculator and I got this, but here keep in mind something very important. When you solve it, you will enter the PMT as this, as we got in A, but you will enter the unrounded value in order to avoid mistakes or numbers that are not accurate. That's why I will use the same number stored in the calculator, as we'll see here. For the PMT, I will use the same number, the unrounded number, but this time N will be 24, and the future value, we don't know it. Everything else would be the same. So now we'll press here. As you see, this is the number that we got. Here, of course, we got it negative because it will be still paid. He still needs to pay it or spend it. So after 2 years, he still has outstanding payment of 19,231.71. But of course, when we write it in the answer, we write it as an absolute number, not negative or positive. Next, in question C, we need to calculate the total amount he would pay at the end of the 5 years, the full period. Now we know, of course, he took the loan of 30,000, but when it's fully repaid after 5 years, it will not be 30,000, it will be more because it includes interest. So, as you see, each month he's making a payment of this number that we got, and he would pay this amount 60 times every month. So the final amount paid will be 60 multiplied by this. But of course, again, you don't multiply by this, you multiply by the unrounded value. So let me copy the same number here and then go to the calculator. Look, the same number. I can remove the negative sign. Times, we have 60 payments. So we will get, as you see, this number, which is, I wrote here again. So this is how we got the answer for C. I hope that you have found this explanation helpful. Please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching.